Randy, it sure would be great if we could get a breakdown on those sales so far this year. Which ones were in residential construction projects and which ones were commercial? The reason why I ask is because I think that there's some room for partnership. It seems like I've heard you say residential a lot, and just if there's ways for us to partner to get better messaging out to residential contractors, either through associations or just through groups like this, that we can help that side of the industry do a little better.
I think that's an excellent idea, Mandy. And Randy, is that something that the department has available or could make available?
Well, actually, I do have that information here now, but I haven't broken it down. I'm looking at a spreadsheet here, but I can certainly mention that next time.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Randy, if you wouldn't mind sharing that spreadsheet with all of us, or like if you could email it to me directly, I want to reach out to my counterparts at other associations and see if there's some resource sharing that we could do to help out.
Great, I will do that, Mandy.
Thank you so much. Hey,
Sure.
Cassidy, congratulations on twins. My triplets are 10. It goes really fast, but one of my triplets is named Cassidy, so good name.
Oh, thank you. Very cool.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Next, we're moving into today's feature. And today's feature is Work Zone Safety, Watch Your Speed. And this is discussing new technology for controlling work zones. And our keynote speaker today is Mallory Davis, who is Regulatory and Policy Coordinator for the Northwest Laborers Council. Mallory, we are so thankful to have you joining us today. Thank you for your willingness to speak and share the new technology that we have coming down the chute that will greatly impact the industry in a positive way. And with that being said, Mallory, go ahead and take the floor and share your screen. We look forward to hearing what you have for us.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me here today. I am here, as Rhett said, to present on what we are doing to try and collaborate on work zone safety. So I work for the Washington and Northern Idaho District Council of Laborers. We have signatory contractors who had reached out to us earlier this year when we started seeing incidents like this. So this is from an accident that one of our contractors had earlier in the year. And actually this particular work zone collision is what started the conversation around how can we start thinking outside of the box and change what we're doing to try and increase work zone safety. So after we had this alarming increase in our work zone collisions and intrusions, we decided to get together, and originally it was more meant to be a forum, just somewhere where we could sit down with a couple senators. We have Senator King and Senator Leas that are active participants in our committee, and really wanted to be able to talk to them about some outside of the box thinking in regards to how can we address this. And as you can see from the stats, between 2019 and 2019 and 2020, our work zone fatalities increased by 1.4%, and overall roadway fatalities increased by 6.6%. So unfortunately, driver habits are getting worse, they're not getting better. So as we met, we had a couple meetings where we were able to kind of sit down and identify why we're discussing the work zone safety, how can we improve it, and what actions can we individually take, whether it is as us as a union, with contractors individually, and WSDOT has started to participate as well. And so what it's done is it's allowed us to kind of create this forum where we're able to brainstorm different ways to address it. So within these goals, what we identified is why we're here, how can we fix it, and what can we do? And our why is because driver behavior is worsening. It's estimated that road users encounter an active work zone on average 1 out of every 100 miles driven on our highway system. We also know that with the recent passage of the bipartisan infrastructure package law, that this is only going to increase. And knowing that our work zones are increasing, we also know that by having a work zone on the roadway, we're almost 25% more likely to have an accident compared to, or I'm sorry, not an accident, a collision, compared to non-work zones. Within Washington State, top 3 reasons for work zone collisions is distracted driving. So there's a 3.6 increase chance of a crash when there's a cell phone being used, and a 16% of our fatal work zone accidents were caused by distracted driving. Following too close and excessive speed are also listed as the top 3 reasons for it. In 2020, Washington State Patrol, they issued a bunch of different driving violations. We feel like these statistics kind of give us a general idea of how the drivers are behaving, not only on our roads, but also in our work zones. And so you can see there is over 2,000 move over violations that were written. That move over law encompasses some of our work zones and protections within it. We also know that we have technology coming into the work zones in ways that we're not able to control them. So I have a quick little news video that I'd like to show. Let's see. Sorry, it won't go to the next slide. There we go. So while that news report was slightly cheeky, we did hear a couple of things. We heard that the technology that's involving driverless vehicles really is struggling with work zones. They get confused with cones, they get confused on signs. They're great on picking up that there's a human on the side of the road, not so great at determining whether or not that human is a flagger and trying to tell that car to stop. We know that this incoming technology is going to be incredibly difficult to program work zones, because inherently these cars are being programmed to the rules of the road in the area that they're being driven. And when we put work zones into these areas, it's hard as a computer programmer to be able to sorry, I lost my train of thought, to be able to prepare for it. So things that we have decided as a group that we can do to improve safety within the work zone is taking a look at the individual design of the work zones, exploring wearable technology, and also looking at administrative controls that we can put into place. So within the work zone design, when it comes to thinking outside the box, some of the things that we did was we started to look at what's going on nationally, what are some things that are being tested, and how can we participate in that. And so one of our participating contractors in the group, Atkinson Construction, they have obtained Federal Highway Administration approval to be able to test orange pavement markings in one of their upcoming work zones. And so we are going to be taking some of the data from that work zone and be able to see whether or not something as simple as changing the color of the paint, allowing drivers to be able to better identify that, hey, this is weird. There's this weird color paint, what's going on, and possibly get their attention onto the road and into the work zone a little bit better. We also have been talking about and advocating for more use of temporary portable rumble strips. We have been working with local city, county, and WSDOT projects to be able to test more frequently temporary portable rumble strips. And again, Atkinson Construction stepped up and said that they were willing to have one of their work zones be tested out on Highway 3 to see how well the temporary rumble strips help with reducing speed. WashDOT also has a traffic control plan out. It's TCP 322, and that gives contractors and engineers a state certified traffic control plan that helps them be able to build into their projects, being able to use those temporary rumble strips if it's identified as an area where just trying to reduce the speed isn't getting driver reaction like we would like. As stakeholders, we would love to see more state patrol and more uniformed police officer presence in our job sites. That is always one way that we get driver reaction in our work zones a lot better. So we are advocating for more funding for contract changes and easier accessibility for the utilization of state patrol and uniformed police officers interactive work zones. But we also are acknowledging that not only is there a shortage of police officers and funding for it, so we are also pushing for automated speed enforcement and more speed reductions within work zones. So when a UPO presence isn't available, we would love to see automated speed enforcement in work zones. The secretary placed an executive order to allow for speed limit reductions in work zones as well. And so that's something where these monthly meetings that we're having has allowed contractors to come in and be able to talk about ongoing projects. One of our other participating contractors, Granite Construction, we're having some issues in an ongoing closure, and being able to have the forum where we could talk to WashDOT and be able to bring up where some of these changes are or where some of the struggles are, we're able to better work with the different regions and what their preferences are and being able to enact things like bringing in speed reductions. We also are advocating for more positive protection to be written into work zone contracts. So adjustments to our plan design can also integrate mobile operations for positive protection for things like mobile beam barriers and zipper barriers as well. We are also advocating for the use of AFATs within flagging closures. They still require certified flaggers on site to operate the device, but it allows for the operation of these devices to be performed from a safer position and allow flaggers to be removed from some on-site constraints and dangers that could be presented wherever their flagging stations are. And then we've really been looking into different technology that's been happening around the country. So devices such as intrusion alert systems, smart cones, smart devices, and geofencing are leading technology that is aimed at not only preventing work zone intrusions, but also refocusing driver attention. We're currently looking into grants on what it would look like to test out geofencing within our work zones. The thought is all the drivers have our cell phones. Any vehicles that were manufactured 2015 and on also have the ability to talk to each other. And so geofencing, what that does is if you have a vehicle where you're entering into a work zone, some of the newer vehicles have that work zone or the school zone programmed in. And so when a driver is entering the school zone, your car will beep at you and say, school zone, 200 feet. And so what we're wanting to test is, can we make that geofencing available in a work zone? So the premise of when a driver is coming into our work zone, can we get the cars to talk to the driver and alert them that you are entering into a work zone? We are also looking at wearable technologies for the workers so that they can be alerted when there's intrusions into the work zone or if there's any incidents happening. And then we also looked at some contract-ready administrative changes. We believe in reducing some of the occupational exposures that happen for workers. And so some of the administrative changes that we're pushing for are allowing for more full directional closures, extending our closure times. So some of the contractors' main complaints is that the amount of time that they're given to be able to perform work safely within the work zone sometimes is constrained to as little as 3 to 4 hours within a work day. And so we feel like if we were able to extend closure times, possibly 30 minutes on the front end, 30 minutes on the back end, giving an overall extra hour of work over 5 work days, that's 5 extra hours that could not only give taxpayer reduce the amount of money that is spent on a project because we're reducing the number of working days, but then we're also reducing the number of times that workers are exposed to doing setups and teardowns within the work zones. We are also advocating for multi-lane closures. So if it's constrained work zones, can we be able to take extra lanes to provide for a safer work zone? And then also using some congestion management strategies. So utilizing queue warning systems and smart work zone systems, as well as some of the smart devices that are coming out, such as the smart arrow boards and PCMS boards that can communicate with our DOT system and allow drivers to be notified further in advance when there are when there is congestion happening within our work zones as well. We also looked at it in terms of what can we do legislatively. Like I mentioned before, we have Senator King and Senator Leas as active participants in our group. And so we have been working with WSDOT and creating automated speed enforcement language that can be brought to the next legislative session. We've also looked at the move over law and different ways that we can try and tighten up the existing RCW so that it's easier for police officers to be able to issue citations. We are also advocating for different fine increases for work zone infractions. And another one that we see is TMA and worker protection. Currently, TMA drivers and workers that are driving company vehicles in the work zone, if they are involved in a collision, they are listed as an active driver in that accident. And what we're finding is that our drivers are being penalized on their personal insurance claims because they're listed as an active driver. And what that's happening, or what consequences happening from that, is now we have contractors who have certain workers who are willing to help mobilize equipment or drive a TMA because they do not want to have that impact on their personal insurance side. So we're looking at ways to be able to provide protection for them on that. And then we're also looking at early education. So we would love to start tapping into driver's ed. We are advocating for a couple different things. One being that within the requirements to be able to test for your driver's license, we would like to see a sign off of a new driver going through at least 2 work zones. We would also, some of the things that we've seen going on nationwide is, for example, in the state of Oklahoma, the AGC is sponsoring. There is a website that they can go to. It's about an hour and a half long, work zone specific driver's education training. Once a driver gives the state the certification of completion, the AGC then issues that new driver a 529 credit as an incentive for taking that extra training for driver's education, which we thought was a pretty unique and different way to start trying to not only talk to the drivers that are on the road, but also start to address the drivers that are going to start being on the road. And then we also moved into a public awareness sphere. So we, as a committee, feel like the humanization of the workers has been lost a little bit. And so we partnered with Lamar Advertising and have billboards all around Washington state. Currently, we have 25 different billboards up around the state, and there's 3 main billboards. There's the one that you can see behind us that has the statistic of the work zone fatalities. And then the other 2 are more humanized. So we used to see in the early 2000s the slow down, my mom works here. And so that's kind of the basis of the other 2 billboards. Is we have one that has a couple girls that are talking about that their dad's working in the work zone. And then there's also a team, and they said that their coach works in the work zone. And so we're going to continue in the next year, come up with a couple more billboards, and are going to continuously be rolling those out. We also worked with WSDOT. They had created a wonderful video back in 2018 And so what we did was we worked with WashDOT and the firm that produced the video. And or we took that video and cut it down into 3 15-second commercials. So what our hope is with those commercials, we're going, LiUNA has a partnership with Root Sports. And so what we're doing is those are going to start being aired on Mariners games and then Kraken games. And they're also going to start doing radio ads as well. And so with that, we're hoping to be able to start reaching the public a little bit more and trying to bring some refocus towards their habits. And so with that refocus, we also created a pledge. We know that typically we as humans, when we do something like sign a pledge, it brings us the intention behind the pledge to the forefront of our mind. And so if we do something like, I'm going to sign up and take a pledge to drive safer, really the premise is what does drive safer mean to you? You know, I have 2 little kids as well. I heard that there's twins in the background for a couple of families. And I'm sure that all of you that have kids know sometimes they're the biggest distraction when you're driving. And so it's for me being able to remind them that I need to focus on what's going on. When we stop, I can talk to them about, or I can look at whatever it is that they're trying to show. Sometimes driving safer means putting their phone in their glove box. It could mean making sure that they set cruise control so that they go the right speed. The premise is, though, is that we want everybody to think about what drive safer means to them individually. And so we created a website. It's www.drivesaferwa.org. And it allows drivers to be able to take a pledge and state that they're going to drive safer, which this is the QR code that we've created for it. And if you would like, you're more than welcome to scan the QR code and take a picture of it. It should take you to our USI website. What we've done with that website is we're trying to create just one-stop shop of resources. So we have the 15-second commercials that can be posted onto social media. We have the pledge. We have resources for all the different smart technologies that there are, things that different states are doing, statistics from WashDOT and LNI. And so we're going to continue working on that website. Part of that work is also training. And so we're doing a couple different things with training. Externally, what we are doing is we are working on 3 different toolbox talk style training videos. So the goal is we'd like to keep them 2 minutes or less, and something that a contractor can take out onto the job site if they have a new hire or somebody who, let's say, is going from a flagging operation to working on a freeway. We would like them to be able to watch one of these training videos and be able to get some situational awareness about what they're going into and what they should be aware of within those videos. So we're going to do one that targets TMA drivers. We're going to do another one that targets the traffic control laborers, so the ones that are setting up the signs, setting up the devices. And then the third video that we're going to be producing is going to be for the worker inside the work zone. So just some situational awareness for the ones that are inside the closure performing the work on the roadway as well. And so those videos, once they're done being produced, will also be available on that website for anybody to be able to use. And internally, another one that we are creating is an 8-hour traffic control labor class. So we're going to have a closed course driving course at one of our locations down in Satsup, where we are going to be doing TMA driver training and traffic control labor training as well. So that we are hoping can complement the training between the flagging certification and the TCS certification that we currently have. So with that, that's my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Or if you're interested in visiting the website, it is listed on that slide as well.
Mallory, it would be interesting to hear if anybody is on the presentation today from Atkinson or Granite and might comment on some of these progressive methods that are being used in work zone safety. Anybody? I guess Brian Van's not here.
I thought he would chime in as well. He might be busy today. Mallory, this was a great presentation, and what fascinating information. Wow, this is great.
Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any in regards to the work zones. But I can also forward any questions on to Atkinson and Granite as well if there's deeper conversations that anyone's willing to have or wanting to have.
Questions for Mallory?
Mallory, send me your PowerPoint if you don't mind. And if anybody would like to have it shared, they can email me and ask for it. And I did record this presentation, so we will be able to upload this to the Smart YouTube website for viewing later.
Fantastic. Folks, check that out. Any of our old presentations, or many of our old presentations within the last few years, Brian, I believe, have been recorded, and we do have access on the YouTube channel. So if you are interested on recapping on any of the past presentations, do check those out. Mallory, thanks again. We really appreciate it. And if folks want to contact